Hey guys, it's Miss Kilgore. Today we are going to be working off of our choice board here in Floyd County. This is on 6th, 7th, and 8th grade choice boards. It's a social studies assignment. It says write a paragraph that's 4 to 5 sentences and explain how the government makes rules and laws to protect, help, and serve its citizens. Then you're going to be submitting it via email, Google, or writing when school returns to your social studies teacher. Now, if that changes and the date is pushed back, you will probably have to go ahead and email that, okay? Or if you have Google Classroom. Today I do have 2 guests. One is a 6th grader and one is an 8th grader, and they're going to be helping us out with this, with breaking down this assignment, okay? All right, so it says how the government makes rules and laws to protect, help, and serve its citizens. So the key word there is how, right? So let's go through the process. How does the government pass these laws? Emily, what's the first thing that we really have to do? What's the first thing in the process of passing a law?
Congress has to create and pass laws.
Okay, and when I say create, what do they actually do?
They debate and then they vote.
Okay, so that is a part of passing it, right? What about create? What are they doing?
They're making the law.
They're actually writing it down, right?
Yeah.
And some of these bills that they pass are bipartisan. Do you guys know what bipartisan means? Okay, so we have 2 parties in our government, right?
Yes.
We have Republicans and Democrats, or the 2 major parties anyway. We also have a few independents as well. But bipartisan means that both of the main parties are involved in creating that law. And usually whenever both parties are involved, what that means is it has a better chance of passing, right? Because you often have Republicans on one side that want a law passed and Democrats on the other side that don't, or vice versa. But if you have bipartisan participation and you have some people from this side and some people from this side and they come together and they write something, don't you think that more people will probably vote for it? Yeah. All right, so the first thing is create, and that is done by Congress. Okay, so first they write the bills, and they can be either one party can write it or they can both come together, right? All right, so once the bill is voted on and they debate it on the floor of the House or Senate, and it passes, and it has to pass in both buildings of the Congress, in both the Senate and the House of Representatives, right? Okay, so once it passes in both of those, where does it go next, Nikolai?
The Supreme Court. Oh.
Does it go to the Supreme Court next? Who is the most powerful person in our country?
The president can veto the bill.
Okay, so next, once it goes through our Congress, the next person that has the bill would be our president. And you used a very good word there, Nikolai. What is it that the president does again?
He can veto the bill.
Veto. All right, and Emily, what does veto mean?
Like, no. Kind of.
Yeah, that's exactly what it means. He can say, sorry, I don't agree with this bill. I'm not going to approve it. Or he can pass it too, right? He doesn't have to veto it. He can say, yep, this is a great bill for our country. It will protect our citizens. We're going to pass it. So let's start with veto. What happens if the bill gets vetoed by the president? Emily.
If the president vetoes it, it can go back to Congress where it has to pass with a 2/3 majority vote.
Okay. So if he vetoes, then it goes back to Congress. and you said it had to pass with a 2/3 majority. So, if it passes with the 2/3 majority, that means so when it originally passes, does it have to be overwhelmingly supported, or can it just be about a little bit over half supported?
A little bit over half.
So as long as they have more than half in the Senate, they can go ahead and pass it. But whenever it comes back from the president and he says no, then it has to go back and pass with the 2/3. Now, what if he passes it? What do you guys think? Do you know?
Sometimes the Supreme Court has to become involved with certain laws.
Okay, so there's two different things that can happen either way, right? If it's passed, then it becomes law. And then Emily brought up a very important thing. No matter if it's vetoed or passed, something else can happen. The Supreme Court may become involved. Now, so sometimes there are certain things that are very controversial, and even though it's a law, somebody that lives in that state may take someone to court about it, and the court may rule in favor of that person, even though the law says something specific, right? And so what happens is it goes up to federal court, and then eventually it goes up to the Supreme Court. And then the Supreme Court has to decide, can this continue being a law? Or they can decide if something was vetoed, should we go ahead and make this a law, and that sort of thing. So they are judges, and most of them are older and wiser, and they can choose certain things. And what they do is they use our Constitution and our Bill of Rights to determine, these things for American citizens. Emily, while we're on the topic, what kind of things do you think the Supreme Court has to deal with normally? Can you give me an example of that?
Gay rights and abortion.
Okay, yes, those are very controversial things, because some Americans feel like abortion is wrong, and some feel like that women have the right to make their own choice, and then some people feel like individuals who are homosexual should have their own rights to get married and stuff, and some people don't. So when we have that sort of disagreement in our country, a lot of times the Supreme Court is the one that has to deal with those things, right? Also, another one that the Supreme Court eventually helped to create laws and things and push through is like with special education students. Did you guys know that? So, a while ago, there hasn't always been laws to protect people who have disabilities, especially children in schools, right? So, as cases came up, and as children, do you want to add something?
I don't know.
Okay. As children, you just kept looking, so I thought. As children and their parents decided my child is not getting what they need, then, they took the schools to court, and eventually, where did it end up?
Supreme Court.
Okay, exactly. So, even though it didn't specifically in the assignment say what kind of bills do protect us, let's talk about that really quick, okay? Let's add a little bit to this lesson. So, can somebody give me an example of a law that protects the citizens? Just give me one.
Driving license.
Okay. Driving. So when we get of age, we have to be a certain age to get our license, right? And that's a part of the law. And so, what part of driving? What kind of laws do we have in driving?
We need to take a test.
Okay,
Get our
So-
license.
you have to pass a test. You have to pass a written test, and you have to pass a driving test too, because they want to make sure that when you get on the road, that it's safe for other people to be on the road too, right? What other things can you guys think about that have to do with driving laws?
Texting and driving.
Okay, so there are laws against distracted driving. If you are texting and you're driving down the road, what's going to happen, Nikolai?
You get a car wreck.
You can get in a car wreck. Exactly. All right, so what else? We got to pass the test. That's part of the laws, right? We have to not be texting and driving. Now, are there any specific laws about, trying to think how to say this so you'll get it. Emily, I'm talking to you, okay? What kind of laws do we have that help prevent it being dangerous on the road?
The red lights.
Okay. So we have red lights,
Green
We-
light.
and we also have signs, right?
Stop.
And those stop signs and yield signs, and that all goes back to passing a test. And you guys are looking at me weird when I say yield, but that just means that somebody else has the right of way, and you have to watch out for them, right? And like we have crossing walks, right? And if the crossing walk is allowing someone to walk across, can we just speed right through and run over them?
No.
No, we have to follow the rules to keep us safe, right? All right, so I'm thinking of a couple more things. You cannot drive if you are. Say it a little bit
Drunk.
louder.
Drunk.
Okay, so we have rules about alcohol. Let's just put. We'll put. It's called a DUI. And that means driving under the influence. And that will cover alcohol or drugs or anything like that, right? Driving under the influence of drugs and alcohol. Okay, so as we drive down the road, can we go as fast as we want to go?
No. There's a speed limit.
Okay, so there is a speed limit. All right, so let's just take what we have and talk about it for a second, okay?
Mhm.
So we have a speed limit. Now, sometimes people want to drive as fast as they want to drive, don't they? And they don't. They don't want to drive
Because,
55.
like, they're late for work, maybe.
Because they could be late for work and they want to drive as fast as they want. But is that good?
No, but they're gonna cause a car crash.
Exactly.
You just
So do
slow it
you-
down.
So when you drive under the influence, when you exceed the speed limit, when you run red lights or don't pay attention to stop signs, when you're texting on your phone, or when you drive without your license, what is all that doing?
It'll like cause car crashes and stuff.
Yes, it's very dangerous for other people that are on the road, right?
Yeah.
And the one thing we have to do as citizens is we have to be able to trust the other people on the road, because a lot of times if there is a wreck, it may not be your fault. You may be a good driver. But the big thing is when we get out on the road and we drive, we don't just have to trust ourselves. We also have to trust other people too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why the laws are in place, is because we have to trust ourselves and other people have to trust us, and it's to make us safer. Even though sometimes it's like, man, why do I have to go and pay to have a license to drive? Well, think about it. Even though you feel like you know what you're doing and you feel like you can get out and drive, what about all the other people that might think they know what they're doing and get out? So no matter what we feel, it's best, and the government has decided it's best, if people are required to take a test to keep us safe. All right. Do you guys have any last comments for the kids online?
No.
Okay. All right. You guys have a good day. You keep working on that choice board. If you need anything, comment below, okay? Thank you.